Now, before we jump into this one, I want to give my thanks to Manscaped for this holiday season. Now, everyone loves a bit of turkey and stuffing over Christmas, but you're going to be looking like a dessert, okay, with the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. What better topic to talk with the in-laws about than what your balls are looking like, okay? And you can get the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle on manscaped.com, and you can use the code LASTLAP on the screen for 20% off. Now, let's be totally honest, lads. One of the most daunting things about trimming downstairs are the cuts and nicks that you're going to end up getting. With this hygiene bundle, you can make sure your plums are looking as smooth as they need to be. Now just listen to this. Listen to all of the things you're going to be getting in this bundle. A Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker and Nose Hair trimmer, because we all know they can get into a bit of a state sometimes as well. We've got your Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant to make sure everything's smelling kind of fresh. Crop Reviver Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of your goodies as well. Now the Lawnmower 4.0 has a cutting edge, if you'll excuse the pun, ceramic blade that makes sure there's no cuts and nicks. And it's even waterproof as well, just in case you get into some sort of other incident whilst you're shaving. The Weed Whacker for your nose and ears has a 360-degree device that makes it really, really easy to get those pesky nose and ear hairs out. As I mentioned at the start, you can get 20% off products at manscaped.com using the code LASTLAP. Okay, it's on the screen. That's 20% off and free shipping as well. You be thankful for manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you too. Now let's get back into the podcast.
All right, you lot, don't forget to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and while you're at it, give us a 5-star rating. Trust me, it really does help us out.
But what are our predictions for Brazil this year?
Do you know what? Like, I'll let Nate go first because I've got a wild one on this one.
Right, cool. We'll say the wild one for a second.
I don't know. I mean, mine's kind of what... It's so difficult to just... You want to stay away from Max is going to win.
Yeah.
Not because we don't want Max to win, but because you want to see some different stuff. You want to see stuff happening.
Yeah.
I always say Brazil last year as a journalist, that and Abu Dhabi were two of the best races I've ever covered as a journalist. Because Lewis last year was just unbelievable at this race. You know, the sprint race coming through the field. There's something about him and Brazil, like there's just some special stuff happening.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the weather forecast lately, but I think it looks a bit ropey through later in the week. And if that's the case on the Sunday, then I'd maybe put Mercedes in there, but it's so difficult to look past Max. I'd love Max and Lewis just to drive off into the distance and have a proper fight, because every year this year, when it's been like, one of them, oh no, Max has got... Austin, it was like, no, okay, it was really easy for Max. And last year kind of spoiled us, so I would probably say Max to win, but I'd love to see Lewis right up there, and Russell as well, because Russell's had a great season. Yeah. But I just can't see past Max winning. It's a sprint race as well, which... in a weird way, helps a dominant team, I think, because you can qualify, you can disappear into the distance from the race, and then secure that front row, and then you're kind of unchallenged. So it means you can undo a bad qualifying.
Yeah, I was going to say alternatively, if you're a Ferrari or if you're a Red Bull, if you're Sergio and you accidentally go out in Q2,
you're like, we've got a whole race. That race, you've got that long straight where you can kind of just one after other, just kind of plod your way through the circuit, so you can make it back. So I'm still mixed on the sprint race because sometimes it can. I think Kevin Magnussen a few times at sprint races would qualify on the Friday like 5th. Yeah. By the race, he'd be lining up like 13th. It's like with the Haas,
safe, right?
Yeah, because in a sprint format, the Haas is going to fall back. But if you'd been in that situation in a race, everyone, they'd have been able to do some stuff strategically. So
I think before your prediction, there's more sprint races next season, right?
6 of them, yeah. Six of them. What do you guys make of the sprint races out of interest?
You know what? I don't mind them from a perspective of there's just generally speaking more action in a race weekend. There's more things to watch, like just on a basic level, right?
Completely agree with that.
But they need to be refined because like Max, I think even like today went on record and was like, why have we got more sprint races next season? Because like all I have to do during them is just not get damaged.
Exactly.
It's not entertaining.
That's right.
It's not like interesting for me. I just have to try and keep out of trouble.
Yeah.
So for even the drivers are kind of like, it's not really exhilarating. It's not like the same as a normal race because we just got to try and be careful and not ruin our race tomorrow.
And that's the thing, I think, when Formula One came up with the idea, it was a great idea. And I actually respect them for trying it because ultimately it was to make the whole weekend better as a result. But I think it does need to be refined. Maybe the race needs to be a bit shorter. Maybe... Because the problem is with the sprint races, the reason we have the sprint races is because the teams vetoed the reverse grid idea.
Yes.
I think the reverse grid idea would have been so much better.
You
qualify on Friday for Sunday.
Yeah.
Then Saturday it's like, right, we're flipping the grid based on the championship and these points are available.
Yeah,
Happy
fun.
days.
Yeah,
happy days.
And it has no bearing on the Sunday race.
Yeah, Sunday's set on Friday, and the issue you would get then is teams would say, well, look, I'm on pole Sunday. I don't want to wreck my car Saturday. So there is issues with it, but I'm sure teams could work a way around it. To me, that would have been a much better solution. And can you imagine watching a race where you've got Max and Lewis both at the back, you've got Charles Leclerc there as well,
Yeah.
and it's like, right, those guys have got to make up like 20 positions in this race,
Yeah.
and it'd just be carnage.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what that would be like.
Absolute chaos.
Yeah, so the comparison between what that could have been and what the sprint races are is disappointing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But I think it's definitely better than having practice 1 and 2 and whatever else.
That's
right? So
100%.
Having the sprint race, I agree. I prefer it because it gives you more action.
Yeah.
My only thing with it, and everybody's probably in agreement in terms of it needs to be remodified a little bit, but I just find it too long.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird because it's a sprint race, so you can't assume it's too long. But it feels like you kind of lured me into a race and then it ends, and I'm like, oh right, okay. If it was like 10 laps, then it's a shootout, 1 compound, nobody can pit, or maybe you have to make 1 stop. I don't know, but like,
and it does those final 5-6 laps, nothing really happens. It's just the guys are just kind of, they're on the same tire.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, great.
Kind of all filtered out by this.
Yeah, and all the
order.
suspense is gone.
There's that lap like 9 to 15 where nothing goes on, and it's kind of everything's been set in place, and then it's like, okay, here we are. And as you said about protecting your car, so that you got Sunday to go
Because
through.
the big points are Sunday, so
Exactly,
There's no, if especially when there's 3 points on offer, you're like, I'll give up 3 points if that means I win 25 points, or 26 points with the fastest lap tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
But from a journalist point of view, we're going back to what it's like working a race weekend. Sprint weekends are so much better from the sense of you get to Friday and you're like, we've actually got something to talk about today. Friday, I find it amazing when fans sit and watch like both practice sessions. They're important for the teams, but I'm sometimes like, I wouldn't be watching this if no one's paying me to. I'm like, you know what? These guys can do this on their own. I'm the same with like preseason matches in football or NFL or whatever. I'm like, don't care. So it gives that, and it means it's great for circuits. This is, I think, a key thing. If you look at the circuits that actually have sprint races, a lot of circuits that probably don't have big money deals with F1, just helping them get more people in during the race weekend. So from that point of view, it's quite important. And as we get more and more venues coming into F1 that are able to spend a lot of money on races, I think other races will start saying, well, give us a sprint race.
Yeah.
So we can market Friday better, get people in. It's still difficult because people are at work, but you can at least get people in and say there'll be a competitive session on.
Even if it's in the evening or something. It's just a level of interest, isn't there?
Yeah, and I'm just glad they've dropped whatever it was the first year. Was it Pirelli Speed King they called the guy who won qualifying? And I was just like, yeah.
That was the thing. It always used to confuse me because you've not won a race if you win a sprint race.
Yeah.
But you've not really got pole either, so it's just
it was a nightmare to write about because we would be like, so what do we call this now? It's like he's fastest in qualifying. That should be he's on pole. It's like pretending pole's tomorrow. That's also the subject of my most misunderstood tweet of all time when Verstappen took pole, didn't he, for the first sprint race?
Yeah.
So I tweeted, Max Verstappen now has more Pirelli Speed Kings than Senna, Fangio, and Schumacher combined. And people were tweeting like, "You idiot!" That's the first. And I was like, "Oh my god,
lads, come on!"
I was like, "Do you really think that was it?" But there were so many people just didn't get it, and I had to quote tweet it and be like, "This is clearly a joke." Like, I don't even know why I had to do it. But yeah, so from that point of view, sad it's gone for the banter tweets. But
other than that, we've waited long enough. I want your wild prediction for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Can Lewis Hamilton win his first Grand Prix of the season and keep the streak going?
It's a Mercedes 1-2, ladies and gentlemen. I genuinely think
that is wild.
I genuinely think that, you know what? I don't know where Red Bull will be. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm hearing like I just want there to be a little accident, a mare or sort of some kind, take Verstappen out of here for a bit. No, as in like, I'm nothing against Verstappen. It's funny what you said about Verstappen. I actually did want him to win those championships because I thought like, look, it brings another spring, it brings something different.
Honestly, same, low key. I kind of just for difference value.
And Lewis fans get mad when you say that, but it wasn't because I don't like Lewis. If anything, I think if part of me, sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, go for it.
I have a theory that I think if Lewis had won last year, I think he would have got out of the car. He would have spent, because he kind of disappeared for 2 months.
Yeah.
I think he would have probably said, I'm done. I'm finished.
And that's worse. And that's a worse outcome.
I think
in a weird way.
It's great for him, but I think his mind, he'd have been like, cool, I'm an 8-time world champ.
Yeah.
His fire's still burning there, but I think it's still burning there because of the injustice he feels of Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, correct.
So like, we've got 3 more years of Lewis, we've got 3 more years of Max. So yeah, same as you, Niran. Like low key, I was like,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, but
Yeah.
I want to hear more about this. Because
Mercedes one too.
Yeah, because I just think, you know what, the Mercedes car has improved over the season, and I made a bold prediction at the start of the season that they'll finish above Ferrari in the constructors. So I need Mercedes to,
close.
you know what I mean? I need
Closer than it should be, really.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, you look at how fast Ferrari are this year in terms of the car they set up. But I don't know. There's that Brazil and Hamilton. That's a match made in heaven. That's something you just can't. Yeah, it's that judge. You can't necessarily separate the two from each other. And I just genuinely think. And Russell, you know, you can't laugh at Russell either. Russell has done a fantastic job this year. And I think, look, something wild's going to happen. Norris, P3, thank you very much. That's your podium.
Also, all British
so Max
podium.
isn't finishing. Yeah, that's not going to do the British bias argument any good.
Yeah, that would finish.
McLaren bias. It's just McLaren bias. That's all it is. That's all it is. But all right, fine. Do we give it to Ricciardo instead? He can finish P3.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still British speaking bias then. Yeah. But Ricciardo podium would be mega. I'd love that. I think.
How has he been this year? Because obviously, with everything that you've explained and sort of how, you know, what a driver sort of like on and off camera, do they act a little bit different? And how has he been knowing what he's had? Because it's a horrible feeling to have throughout the whole year, and you're still trying to compete, you're still trying to drive. Has he been different in terms of the Daniel Ricciardo everybody sort of predicts that he is? And as you said that you've had great times with him, so has his demeanor or mood changed? And are there any other drivers that are sort of good on camera, bad off camera, or vice versa?
Yeah, with Ricciardo, and this is one of the things I really like about him, is that he is really honest about things. You know, when he's been doing badly, so what happens on a Sunday, they go into the media pen, the drivers, and we have like a little mix zone, we call it, just out the back, which is where written journalists will go.
Yeah.
And then they'll come to thereafter. And that's when you can see drivers, you know, like this, you can see their raw emotion on their face. And there's been a lot of times this year when Ricciardo's looked like he's wanted to be anywhere else. I mean, there's that scene in that Netflix series when he's like the same, isn't he?
Yeah.
From last year where he's like, should I just pay the fine and get out of here?
Yeah, just leave.
Yeah, because I just go. And this year you've been able to tell, like, and looking back at it now, in Hungary, I think subconsciously, like when I spoke to him then, you could see that he knew McLaren had made that call. And that in the weeks afterwards when I kind of found out that was the key. With him, he wears his emotions on his sleeve and he's very honest about things and he gives good answers. I think that it's been difficult because he's been asked a lot of the same questions, like, you know, what's the problem this year? Why are you struggling? And sometimes that can be repetitive and you can become frustrated with it. He's never lashed out at myself or other journalists I've been in media sessions with. Which I think is one of the things I respect about the situation he's been in this year. He's struggled, but he's not really gone out and been like, woe is me. Like he just said, look, I understand it. It's not great for me but he can kind of see where things have come from. So yeah, I think I have felt sorry for him at times this year, and sometimes you're like, why do you feel sorry for an F1 driver? But they're human beings as well. And you can see, and Ricciardo is one of the best at being honest about how he feels and about how things are affecting him.